Okay, I am welcoming Hannah Anderson. I am so grateful for your easy to say name. I don't have to try to figure it out. To the podcast today, I have so many questions for you. I'm very excited to learn more about you and what you do. We'll kind of go through like a quick intro first, because I think knowing what your education is really important to people in that first step in building trust and what you'll say afterwards. So tell everybody what is your education, and you're a chiropractor, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I am a chiropractor, and I got my doctorate at Palmer College in Davenport, Iowa. And while I was in school, I was insane and drove to do more school on the weekends in St. Louis to get my degree in pediatrics and prenatal health and family care. So my comfort zone and like my happy place is with moms and babies and women who want to get pregnant or, are kind of starting that first leg of the motherhood transition and just like want to do everything preventative, want to fill their cup as much as they can before they start, then getting them through pregnancy, through birth, and nourishing them afterwards, and babies also.
So wouldn't most people probably go to one of those schools or trainings and then finish it and then do the second training and not do it?
Yes, I think I was just very sure that that's what I wanted to do. And
how did you know that at a young age though? Like at a young age, I didn't even know if I wanted to have kids, let alone have other people help other people.
I don't know when the switch flipped, I guess, but because I remember I was a biology major in college, and I remember telling people, I'm like, that is crazy that like you like grow a parasite inside you. It like changes your body completely. I was like, what is strange? Like I was fascinated with it, but I was like, I don't know. Can I hire a surrogate? Like I just like was not sure. And then something flipped in me. Don't know when, might have been in grad school. And I remember just looking at my husband and being like, hey, when we have kids, which we were like, we don't know if we're gonna have kids. I said, when we have kids, I'm gonna have them in my living room. And he was like, okay. he's like, you're the one doing it if it happens. So somewhere along the way, I was just like, that's it. Like I'm so in on birth and all, the miracle that it is, and facilitating it being an awesome experience. And yeah, I just was all in.
And you have two kids. They're young, 4 years and 8 months, little girls. Mm-hmm. So is it too personal? Did you have kids in your living room?
I did. So our first son was in our first house in our living room. And she came out in like 3 hours. And then Frankie, who we had last summer, she was born in our bedroom and came out in like 90 minutes. So they're both just like crazy. They were awesome, but it was bonkers, to be honest. Like it was wild.
It's so funny. I don't have biological children. I don't care what any celebrity has done. I am past the age of having biological children. If you are watching Grandma, no, done. But that was a decision I made at 35. Nope, that ship done sailed. I'll figure it out other ways. But I have surprisingly witnessed many births. I guess my friends think she's never done it. She'd be a good one to have around.
Yeah. And that's a lot of trust, right? To have someone at like your most vulnerable moment.
Yeah. I will actually, the first one I'll never forget. And I tell her this all the time. I was trying to like respect her privacy, which there is none but I was trying really hard to be respectful of her. So, keeping my eyes on her eyes, and she asked me if I could see the baby's head or something. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not looking. And she goes, well, what the F are you doing here?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. Let just go.
Hold on.
Figure that out.
I gotta get a drink.
Yeah. So then, after that, I learned, but I've had, and it has been an amazing experience every time. But I'm not in charge. So, nor do I really know what I'm doing, other than just being there for her and helping her, feel more comfortable through the process. So it's just amazing to me that that's something you knew you wanted to choose at a young age, or before you had children anyway. It seems to me that that's a decision you would make after you've been through that experience.
Right. But I think you tapped on like a very, very important part of it, which is this attention to postpartumhood, like that time period, is often neglected because people are like, oh, it's not me, so I can't get involved. When someone who doesn't have kids, but is there for support, like ding, 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 right? Like that would change so much of women's healthcare, is like, just, people who are not like, birth isn't for me, but I'm here to support you. That would be like one big layer off the onion.
Yeah, probably.
So,
and maybe
part of the solution.
I guess, yeah, that must be it. So you work at Back in Line, that's where you do your chiropractic work. And I'm assuming
Yes.
your chiropractic work and the work that you do with this motherhood transition thing, they probably overlap a lot, the services,
Yeah,
I'm sure, right?
absolutely.
But you also work with BIRTHFIT. So I think most people listening probably know what a chiropractor does for the most part. So tell us what BIRTHFIT is and what you do there.
Yeah. So I did dive into after my first daughter was born. It is kind of a bigger community that has some national and international representation, and started in, I think, 2016. And I just happened to teach the BIRTHFIT programming and be trained in the BIRTHFIT training, which is some coaching, some healthcare, and have taken that to build up BIRTHFIT Cedar Rapids. So what I provide outside of the clinic through BIRTHFIT Cedar Rapids is postpartum rehabilitation. So it's not like a weekly fitness class that you would come to for a year. They're in postpartum series. So it's 8 classes, generally 2 classes a week for 4 weeks. And we try to hit on this, like, how do you get back into your body after you have a baby? So oftentimes women have a baby and then they have this 6-week checkup, and sometimes that's it. Sometimes I like to ask everyone, I'm like, what'd you talk about at your 6-week checkup? Because it's so, some women will be like, oh, they just asked about the baby, then told me I could have sex and exercise. And then they asked like what kind of birth control I wanted. So all done.
That's what I know my friends have been through.
Yeah. So it leaves a lot of questions unanswered. And a big one of those is, women want to get back into movement, or they do just like feel really out of touch with themselves. So they're like, well, what can I do for exercise? And sometimes it leads women to be using like Pinterest and Google to get through what should be a structured and somewhat monitored recovery process. Like every surgery, aside from a C-section, has prehab, which is like exercise you do beforehand to make sure the surgery is going to go well. And then you have rehab afterwards. So you would go to PT, or you would go to someone that would help you heal faster and strengthen and rebuild. And, here's this surgery that at least 30% of women go through, especially here in the US. And there's no one there to tell them how to get through it, even though it's just as big of a deal. And so it's very, very backwards for me. And I'm not like, even though I had my babies in my house, I think all babies are born how they're supposed to be born. Right. And it's wherever you're comfortable. So if you, and that's like scientific as well, because there's something called the fear, tension, pain cycle. So if you are in fear, your body's going to be more tense and you're going to be in pain. And then if you're in pain, you'll probably be fearful, which will make you more tense, which will cause you more pain. So for me, I would have been more fearful being in a hospital, most likely. Somebody else would be like, oh, thank God we're in the hospital.
Right.
And so
sure.
that's what would make them feel safe and what would calm them down and what would allow them to have the best birth. So it's absolutely not like there is no right answer, because everybody's different. So that's
and that's what I was going to say
as well.
If you're, Pinterest and Google and Facebook and Instagram and, everything online, some women, you could say, bounce back, quickly, at least from the outside looking in. And some women will tell you they can't get back to their regular workout routine. They don't feel themselves, or they have weird pains and things. So you help coach them through that. So they then have that extended period of time to have like and
we really like lay out what's realistic. So what is put out there as what your healing timeline should be. Why, if you do, why do you put pressure on how you look, or, that sort of thing instead
the
of
mental part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The mental part of it, because so much of it is a mindset. One of the things we talk about in class is that your soft tissue takes about 280 days to heal, which is much closer to 9 or 10 months, right? So like I have an 8-month-old, I'm not even there yet. And so this expectation to do everything normally, whether that's athletic or whether that's professional, right? Like I don't get a long maternity leave because I'm self-employed. It's just not how it goes. But a lot of women who get this, even if they get 12 weeks, then it's like, okay, you're basically through, that got you through like a resting period. That didn't even get you through rebuilding or, anything like that.
Yeah, because your sleep cycle is not normal now, whether you're first time mom or you got other kids at home, like everything, your whole life turns literally upside down. Right. I mean, so for the good and the bad.
So the mindset of like, women are like, okay, I'm done with maternity leave. I should be back to normal. And then you're like, hey, your body's not done healing for another 6 months at a minimum, probably more like 8 to 9 months. And they're like, oh, so like just switching that little piece of, what are your expectations and why, and what's it based off of? And even just kind of drawing some of that stuff out so that they can chew on it. And it's, like I said, it's not up to me. I'm a service provider. Like if they don't want my services, it's for them.
Right.
Like, it's not for me. What class is not for me. So it doesn't serve me at all to tell them a bunch of things. I'm like, yes, I think your life should go. But my role is to give them a bunch of information, help them assimilate it if they want that help, and kind of let them figure it out as an informed person.
Yeah, informed by maybe science and medicine versus what you see in pictures. And I know that part can be super hard. But yeah. And I think what I'm learning right now is just that this is available. Like you said, you're a service provider. If somebody needs or wants these services, they can seek them out. But sometimes if you don't know the services even exist,
yes.
And as a new mom, especially if you're a brand new mom and you're experiencing mom brain for the first time, Jay, don't really understand what that is from a biological term, but my friends all assure me it's real. So, you just don't know what's available until you know. So I think it's amazing to see that that's a thing. Do these classes happen in groups typically?
They do. So classes have shrunk sizes just for COVID reasons and having everyone have their own equipment. And so that people aren't getting too close, or, it used to be maybe like 3 people to a squat rack. We're not doing that sort of situation right now. But even being in person, even if they're far away and, we're not quite as like cuddly as we used to be, that in-person connection. And I'm like so excited for next week because it's going to be that electric, like, I'm around, like there's just something about like vibing with other people. And like my last class, felt like I was like shooing them out the door because they're like, we are talking to other people. and that's huge for women in general, but it's mega huge for moms who, have been kind of tucked away and have so many questions. And we do the class in a private personal training gym downtown. And one of the reasons we do that, we kind of do it after hours so that nobody's in there, because if you have to ask a question about like peeing your pants or talk about, like a medical question or something that has to do with your baby, there isn't someone in the back like slamming weights down and overhearing. And I would, if there were men in the gym, we'd probably weird them out enough to leave anyway.
Perfect. Well, it must be nice for them to even just have that community. Because that's the other thing I think moms go through. You have your friends that you have connected with. And then once you start having kids, unless you're like second or third in line of your friends or siblings or whatever to have kids, it's like another like layer of isolation that can happen. And so, meeting new people that have common things going on, like we all just had a baby. Do they bring their babies to the classes?
So they can. When you have kids, I feel like there are times where you are much more like relaxed with them next to you. and there are times when you are much more relaxed with them away from you. So if they have a non-mobile kid, like a child that they can either wear or keep on the mat next to them, or, you know, they're not going to be running around getting the equipment, all that kind of stuff, they're more than welcome to. It's not necessarily my philosophy to like force mom and baby to break apart. But a lot of times mom will bring baby for the first class because they're like, I'm just trying to check this out, trying to figure out what I can do, what I need. And then the second class, they're like, you know, I decided I would get more out of this hour if I was by myself.
Which is probably great for her too. Like making that, you know, getting an opportunity to make that choice. Yeah, easily that way. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, and then, so you full circle chiropractic care, pre and postpartum care. And then you also you have a nutrition company too called Well Labs. I am so interested in learning about this. So I told you, like, I'm so curious about all the things you do. So, I mean, there's a lot of nutrition companies out there. There's a lot of, I work in the beauty industry, and when people tell me about the things that they're ingesting to make themselves look younger, I always giggle a little bit.
Yes.
I'm like, or you could drink more water. I mean,
right. Yes. Yep.
You could try that maybe. Or, you know, they would rather buy a $100 serum for their face than cut dairy to get their acne to go down. So I love nutrition built in. I don't always have the best nutrition. I am the best example of a yo-yo dieter there was, but I still love and respect nutrition. So tell me what you do with Well Labs.
So we started Well Labs. The doctor that owns Back in Line is Dr. Cal Clean. And what we're finding is that as practitioners, we have access to kind of a level of nutritional supplements that are not over on the shelf. So the supplement industry, as you know, because you've heard all these crazy things that people are ingesting, is not very tightly regulated. And because of that, you have to dig a little bit deeper. It's a blessing and a curse, because the blessing is like you have access to some amazing therapeutic things with much fewer strings attached. Like you might not need a prescription or something like that. The curse is that if you, it can be like a you get what you pay for industry, where it's, if you found a $4 multivitamin, like there's, you know, who knows what's in it. It could be cardboard. It could be, we don't know. And there are just some simple things that we found ourselves explaining to patients over and over again. Like, here are what some synthetic vitamins are. 50% of the population can't handle the synthetic form, so you actually need this form. Here's how you tell what a quality supplement is, meaning, you know, you need these things so that you don't get constipated, or so that you actually use what's in there. And then there were a ton of people who wanted that level of product and that information, and we're far away. And so it was just much easier to put it on an online platform. So we try to use it as an educational resource as well. So if there are some things, like people might really try to take charge of their health, go in and ask their doctor, like, I want a bunch of preventative lab work done. Then they get it back and it says like all clear. Well, that then didn't help them take a step forward, being proactive with their health. So we have some resources that then they can go and compare their lab values and say, okay, well, was I optimal? Was it actually optimal? Was it just okay? Or was I kind of too low, and am I trending too low? Dr. CJ is certified in functional medicine. And so we have taken a decent amount of her training and just tried to make it digestible. So
I'm looking through the website right now, and my favorite thing about it is that a lot of the vitamins are liquid, which is a massive bonus in I've educated myself on this in a while, and it's not easy to find. And also it's not easy to find liquid vitamins. It's also not easy to know if they're good. You know, you got to trust the people selling them. So having your names on it, that you back these supplements or whatever, it's really impressive. But I learned a long time ago, a lot of the pills that we take just come out the other end.
Right. And I think like our point was like, this isn't rocket science, and you shouldn't have to, it should be easily accessible information. And, we're not like, we use Well Labs as a vehicle, yes, for the clinic, because it's easy for people to order at home. It's easy for people to share it, that sort of thing. We have products here that are not the same line. So we're not, we're pulling from different things. They're all lines that are only available through a physician, which is kind of our bar that we set.
Right.
So it's not going to be like a Flintstones vitamin on our shelves, but
like they're also
that being said,
oh, go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
No, I would just say like there are so many good products out there that if you're limiting yourself and you're trying to make big changes, going to just getting some help and getting some guidance of, what's a good product. And I try my best, even if I'm in my office with a patient, and say, well, let's take a look at your prenatal. Here's some things I would like to say about it. It's totally up to you if you would like to make a change, or if this makes financial sense for you. If you feel fine while you're on it, there's sometimes where people bring in like 20 bottles of stuff, and I'm like, we can't take 20 bottles of something, and you might need to just take a month where you don't take anything, which is a terrible business model for me, but it's the truth,
Well, I'm with you. I could sell all the serums I wanted to, except for if I know you have acne because you're eating too much dairy, or I know, like, I can sell you things to reduce your sunspots, but it's because you're not wearing sunscreen. Like, that's why you have sunspots. Like, so I can make all kinds of promises, but it's amazing to me on how that education part is really missing. The best example that I have is people always say, oh, do you recommend Retin A? And I said, well, Retin A is just a man-made form of vitamin A. So I recommend putting an oil on your face that has vitamin A in it. It's the same. Yeah, it's really that simple.
Well, so much stuff like that, just like it stemmed from nature, and then we kind of took it and morphed it so that we can put a patent on it and that kind of stuff. And
and there's room for synthetic things.
Oh, good.
There's
there's time and place. Yes, absolutely.
But when you can make it easier, and then when it's also backed by somebody that kind of does that research for you, I think sometimes that's what we lose in nutrition, especially. We lose that we start making assumptions and based off of our Google searches. So, or, what some hot guy on Instagram said or whatever. I mean, I don't know who you follow, but some guy with like the right six pack told me that I could look like that too. I might believe it.
Right. I'll try it once.
Yeah. But yeah, I was looking through that, and like the first thing I saw was the D3 and K2 liquid. And I just have some knowledge about how amazing those two vitamins are for people in liquid form. And actually a doctor that I'd worked with before was basically like, if you're not taking those in liquid form, then don't take them at all. It's not even worth it. Right. And I just remember that always stuck. So, and I tend to get low in vitamin D in the winter, and here we are. So yeah, I think that's amazing. And I love your approach though, of saying like, I have information for you. I'll share it with you, and you're a grown adult and you can do what you want with that information, take it or leave it. So for the U conferences, you're talking about eating for success, which I am very successful at eating. So.
Same quantity.
Yeah. I actually had a nutrition coach one time, and she taught me, because she said you're a quantity, you like to eat food. I'm like, yes, I do. I very much enjoy I like what it does for my psyche. I like the social aspect of eating. And she was like, so she was helping me find foods that I could still have quantity, because like I was trying to eat like a handful of nuts. What?
It took me 5 seconds and it sucked. Yeah,
like this would be an hour-long snack. She's like, okay, how about let's talk about celery?
Not
the same, but you know what I mean. So tell me a little bit on what people will take away from that. And I kind of set you up where I wanted people to really understand you, and like the breadth and depth of which your business is like really well-rounded. You're not just coming from a place of, let me tell you how to eat and take my vitamins.
Right. So we're going to hit on probably 5 or 6 big topics, and like constantly people are talking about what they're eating, how often they're eating, what time they're eating. Like there are just like so many things that we focus on, but you tapped into a big one that will hit, which is just like, you can like it. It's okay to like it. And that's not bad. And, we have kind of a block against pleasure sometimes in our society where it's just like, oh, I can't like it too much because then I don't know when I'm going to be able to stop myself. So then even just enjoying eating, it becomes taboo. When it should, there is so much more tied to eating than calories, than vitamins. And truly, big vitamin fan. I'm all about being well nourished chemically, but we're emotional beings and we're physical beings and we're spiritual beings. And you can't separate that from food. And if you do, I feel like you're really missing out on, how social it is, how emotional it is, and how you can use that to your advantage. So
we associate so many bad, we associate so many bad feelings with food. It's not fair.
Right. Well, and we've even been taught to label this is a good food, this is a bad food. And we'll talk about that too next week, of just why, what other labels, what other limits have you put on food that, that you don't have to adhere to. And when I have little kids, so my daughter just turned 4 for her birthday. She wanted to get sushi, and people are like, she's 4 and that's what she wanted. Yeah. And then for dinner, she wanted Thai takeout. And then she asked us if her next meal could be from the Indian restaurant. So this idea of kid food, we always kind of crack up when we go into a restaurant like that has a sushi restaurant with a kid's menu, and it's chicken fingers, grilled cheese, and she's eating sashimi off the, just bare paws.
My kids are that way too.
Yeah.
And it was not easy. I will not say it was easy at, 3 to 8, 7 was hard. And I won't say I forced them to try everything, but I forced them to try everything in a healthy way. There was no threatening. There was no
right.
We didn't sit all night at the table. It was conversations that we had and mutually agreed upon trying new things. My kids' kindergarten teacher actually really helped me with this. She said that kids have a fight or flight reaction to new tastes and textures. So it is their natural reaction to fight or flight, something new, something that looks different. Unless it's dirt, apparently. I don't know. I don't quite get that, but something there that doesn't quite connect for me. But when she told me that, it really made a connection to me that I was like, oh, well, I just have to help break the fight or flight of a new texture, of a new taste, of a new smell, of a new color in food. And I will tell you though, my biggest regret about my kids eating sushi, and they do, is man, it is not cheap to have 2 sushi eaters in your house.
No,
that is
not at all. That's why it's a birthday meal. Yeah, but that's another thing that, we'll hit on fight and flight and how that plays into eating as well. But also this idea that your body is generally trying to figure out the best answer. So is it a kid's body's best answer to reject something new or have these really particular discerning tastes? Yeah, because they need to know if it's poison. That's, evolutionarily, they need to know if it's going to kill them.
Right.
So they should be really weary of new foods. And that's not a weird thing, but how do you provide an environment where, the weird becomes okay and they can adjust and adapt. And like I said, there's all kinds of paradigms we've built around eating and food, and it's
tough but I think as an adult too, you want what you want. I was just talking to one of my friends today, and she was like, she's all disappointed in herself. She said, I went out and I bought a bunch of healthy food. She was like, I'm going to try to do keto again. And I'm always like, why are you trying to do that? Because you obviously hate it. But anyway, she's like, I'm going to try to do that again. She goes, but then, it wasn't 12 hours later, she was making other choices. And I was like, well, then I feel like forcing yourself in that box that you want to force yourself in isn't the answer for you. Is that how you approach things with people?
Well, so talking about backwards ideas, it's a backwards idea that like, if I find that I could find the one right way for me to eat all year, that it shouldn't change with the seasons. It shouldn't change with what my body needs. It shouldn't change with the time. So a lot of people would jump on something like keto and be like, oh, I lost a bunch of weight really quickly. Then I kind of plateaued, and then I gained a little weight, and then I got fed up. So I decided to do something else. And they switch and they lose a little weight, plateau, gain a little weight. That's actually a super normal, natural cycle that our body goes through of breaking stuff down, figuring out your maintenance level, building some stuff back up, breaking some stuff back down. Like that's a very normal thing. And for things to not change, you know, for you to eat the same way in July as you do in January is very backwards. And, you know, for me I'm still nursing a baby, would be very weird for me to have expectations of myself that like my husband would have of himself, that he, like, men just have this benefit of they run on a 24-hour cycle and they could do the same thing every day for the most part, you know, within reason. And women don't operate on that. And so there are some
it really
things
is
like,
different. And when you say the cycle,
absolutely.
You mean the hormone cycle. Men have a 24-hour hormone cycle. Women have a 28-day hormone cycle.
Right. And even after menopause, like there's still something cyclical to women's bodies. And so yeah, to try and play the game with different rules is not how you win.
Yeah. I was just telling my daughters about that the other day, because, you know, they're 12 and 14. So the hormone cycles are starting, and one of them has all the questions. The other one would prefer I never said the word period again in my life. So, you know, it's fun to deal with that. But I was explaining that hormone cycle to her, and I said, that's why we have an 8-hour workday, because it works for men, because they're at their best from 8 to 5. And she was like, huh? And I said, yeah, isn't that garbage? One of our sponsors, a girl that started coming to our conferences, and she's attending virtually. You'll have to connect with her. I don't know, maybe you already know her. Do you know Alex, that has the agenda?
Yeah. I do. Yep.
So
everything she's about. Mm-hmm.
She is. It's amazing. I have an IUD. When my doctor says, when was the date of your last period? I'm like, 15 years ago. I don't know, a long time ago. I'm good. In fact, my husband has had a vasectomy, and I still keep that thing because I love it. It's my best friend. Me and that thing are sticking around until the end of time, I feel. But the hormonal cycle has evened out a lot for me with that. I'm the ideal patient. But yeah, I was explaining that to her, and she was like, well, that just doesn't make any sense when women are half of the population. And I'm like, and now you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think understanding that, welcome. It just gets better from here. Wait till you find out that you having the name Alex is going to benefit you as you get older.
So my husband and I talked about this with our second one, because her name is Frances May. And he's like, if we name her Frances, it was my grandma's middle name. Well, both of them are one is from each grandma's middle name. And he's like, can we spell it like male Frances for when she's older? And I'm like, I just want to like spell it how my grandma spelled it. I said, but I do see your point. Unfortunately, right? Yeah. It's like, we shouldn't have to give you a leg up like that.
Yeah. It's for real. I remember, you know, I graduated high school in the 90s. And even then we talked so much about how, what your name looks like on a business card. It's a little different now, but even I think as much as we've progressed, it's all still there. It's all still very lingering. And women do things differently. And I think that's why this conference is really working. And the men that attend, you know, my husband and a few other men that have attended, have said it's eye-opening to see how women do things differently. I mean, we've all attended conferences forever that appealed to men. They did 0 art projects. They didn't have any dance parties.
Lame.
Yeah, super lame. Yeah, they choke themselves with their ties, and I don't understand. But yeah, I think my husband was like, yeah, it's really interesting to see just what attracts women and draws them, and I think all of what you're talking about, it's just like you said, it's all normal, and we compare ourselves to what's normal for everyone else and for men, but what's normal for us might be different. And I think it's important. So,
yeah.
it's good. Can you move to the side and show people your door? Isn't that so
Color
cool?
blocking.
Yeah. So how long has Back in Line been there?
We have been in this building since 2016. We existed about half a mile down Center Point Road for probably at least 5 years prior. So
how long have you been there?
I graduated in 2015, so about 5 years.
Okay.
6
So the
years.
reason,
Yeah,
and if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see, but her door is half beige and half like, it looks poppin' coral to me, like an orangey coral color.
It is. Yeah, it's a very bright red.
Pretty. And your mom is the interior designer, Lori Wiles. I always want to call her Lori Wild, but no, maybe. Yeah. She's the interior designer, and so when you first popped on, I was like, oh, I love the door. And she's like, you said, yeah, my mom did the design here. And she's a sponsor of the conference. And I got a chance to meet her a few weeks ago. Oh my gosh, she and I could have sat there for days and talked. We think a lot alike. It was very fun. But she was so proud of everything that you were doing and was really excited to support the conference, and with you being a part of it as well, which, you know, is always nice to see your mom still supporting you as you get older, right?
It is.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. So, because you're in front of the door, and I thought, oh, everybody needs to see this door.
Yeah. So well, we get comments all the time because, you know, when you're walking in for a doctor's appointment, and there are a lot of doctor offices are, you know, just like very neutral, very sterile. And that was one of the things. There's 4 doctors here, and with each of us having our own office, we kind of have you get to spunk it up a little. I'm going to see if maybe I can show you so this is above my desk. So I got some rainbow artwork. All of even my anatomy prints are like pretty artsy, like watercolors. So yeah, it's helpful when you are seeing a lot of kids, and it is also helpful. Just people do like to, you know, if they see more than one doctor, they're like, oh, it's so interesting to see your room versus somebody else. And it's so warm in here, and it's colorful, and it's, it's just, it's relaxing.
You probably spend a lot of time in there, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
You have to enjoy it. I have my stuff everywhere. It's kind of exploded, but it makes you feel like, I don't know. Yeah. When you have it your way. But that the sterility of a space can really, I mean, even when you are working, I'm assuming anyway, this is an assumption, you tell me if it's not right, but when you're working in something scientific, it's nice to not have, you know, just be surrounded by no color and all that kind of.
Yeah. Well, and talk about like fight or flight, right? Like you can be in a space that's like super overstimulating. You can be in a space that's understimulating. Of course, this is like a great question for my mom, but there are like locker rooms in male sports that would paint their locker rooms pink because it would calm people down. And that's like the tip of the iceberg as far as I know about that conversation of, you know, how your emotions play into a space. And
the Iowa Hawkeyes male Iowa Hawkeyes opponents
like visitor
locker room is pink, and it's all psychological. It's to psych them out. So because it's feminine, it's like feminine energy, and you know, going in to kill somebody in a football game, and it is a very calming color. So they don't. It does, like, you don't even know it's doing it to you, but they know, the people that go in there. I actually had an opportunity to talk to Kurt Ferentz about this one time, oddly enough, in the locker room, and I was there for I was there for a tour anyway. But he was saying it really does, like, they know going in that's what's going to happen, and then they almost psych themselves out more because of it, and so it's like, you know, it's just a huge game. So yeah, I'm sure. And your mom was telling me when she designs a space, it's all about how you feel in the space, you know, that feng shui piece of it, that feeling of, you know, what feeling do you want to evoke when people are in it. And I found that she's on my vision board now. Like when
let me get some of her time.
When I have an office that's not in my basement.
Right.
I I'm going to have Lori design it. That's how it's going to go.
Perfect.
That's how it's happening. Tell me a little bit more. So you are being a new mom for 4 years and 8 months, and you kind of have, I mean, one career, but 3 facets of the career. How has having kids affected that? And is that keeping that balance been simple, or do you help women with that too, now that you're going through that yourself?
I would say I lie awake at night wondering about pickups and drop-offs more than I ever thought. Like I'm worried about what time kindergarten starts 2 years from now. And part of it's just my personality. Like I'm a big planner, and I'm like Virgo to a T, and I just would like to know everything in advance. And that being said, I have loved being in private practice because I do spend a lot more time with my kids, and they don't, luckily my sister-in-law lives close and watches them. And even at the beginnings, like I said, I don't get to take a long maternity leave, but I do, for the first couple of weeks, I have brought the babies with me. And especially when they're at a point where they sleep a lot, then, so I might, at the beginning, I would like nurse a baby, and then I might see a couple of patients, and then I would, especially Frankie is very chill. And so for a while she would just lay on the floor while people got adjusted. And so there are definitely so many benefits to being able to either bring them or change my schedule around preschool and those sorts of things. That being said, it's overwhelming because you're expected to like flip a switch. Like today I was home until 1:30. So I was in like mom mode from the time I woke up to 1:30. And then at like 2:00, I got to flip into doctor mode. And, so I had to learn how to be very clear about like, when I'm working, I am like all in. And then when I'm at home, I am like all in at home. And that definitely took, it's still not perfect, but it's that's just kind of how I survive with it. Cause you do have these expectations of kind of being a working mom. And then you have expectations of, you feel the pressure to do all the stuff that the stay-at-home moms get to do. And so I get to do a little bit of both, but it can feel like that jack of all, master of none thing sometimes, unless you really put the right kind of effort into it. And I before I had kids, again, I was like, I don't understand why you would want to stay home with your kids. I don't get it. And then I had these 2 kids that are so funny. Like they're so entertaining. And like I always knew I would be like head over heels in love with them. I didn't realize they would just be so hilarious and like so enjoyable. And then I was like, oh, I get why moms want to stay home, because you're like, this is so short. They're going to be grown-ups before I know it, and they're not going to think I'm cool. Like I have just a separate list on my phone of stuff I'm going to do, and they don't like me anymore. Because I just know, I'm like, it's coming. So sometimes we'll just say like, oh yeah, that's the thing we're going to do, and they don't like us anymore. But yeah, like I said, I'm really efficient when I'm here. And then when I go home, I try to like not work at all. And I know you're very good at social media. I figured out it's not for me. When I don't have to. So I have a tablet that has my social media on it that I leave at my office. And so if I need to use it for work and I want to see people's kids or whatever I want to do, I like use it at work. And then part of me being all in on being a mom when I go home is that I don't take the tablet home. And so I'm not on my phone as much as possible around them. And they'll be, a couple of years, and they'll be gone 8 hours a day. And so when they're gone 8 hours a day, then maybe I can do that again, but it's a season.
Yeah. Well, when they're little like that, it's monkey see, monkey do the whole time. If you're on your phone, they want to be on their phone, or they want to be on a tablet or a device. And it's hard to, how do you tell that? I mean, there's part of me that's like, well, no, like I'm a cusser. I say all the swear words, and my kids, they really never have. And I've been very clear, like, those are my words. They're not your words. So there's a little, I'm sure they've said plenty, don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit of, you can't expect your kids, you can't have the same rules as your kids have, or we'd all be in bed at 7 o'clock or something. Although that sounds nice. I think that's great advice for young moms, like, you know, separate your social media, you know, that way you can have your phone and respond to text messages or phone calls or whatever, but you know, that is over there and it's part of work. I'm certainly not good at that at all, but I think that's great advice to give to people. It's hard, and it's hard to juggle the kids when they're little. It's just different. And as they get older, like you said, they're gone for school. You feel like it's a long day, but I feel like I drop them off and then I come home and then 5 minutes later, I got to pick them up again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's kind of a misconception too about social, or about being an entrepreneur, that, you know, oh, you can make your own schedule. Well, you can, but you still have to make everyone fit in your schedule,
Yes.
including your appointments, your clients, your, you know, your kids stuff, drop-offs and pickups and all that. My husband just texted me, was like, what's the plan for pickup next Thursday for the conference? Drop off and pick up. And I was like,
great question.
you. The answer, he's not watching, you should be, but the answer is you, sir, are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so funny. Before we head out of here, I just want to let you know, I appreciate your time so much. And I know how I mean, you have to give a lot of your time to kind of do these educational things for people. And I think it's completely worth it. If people wanted to talk to you more about the things that you do, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
So you can reach out on social media, but it'll be delayed. Like, it definitely won't get a weekend response out of me. Honestly, email is probably the best way. Or if you're interested in something that pertains particularly to your health, like your specific health questions, then you can call back in line and get that set up. Or if you do email me, I can redirect you, just totally fine. So whether, if you're comfortable with an in-person consultation, or that kind of needs to be part of it because an exam might be involved or something like that. If you're looking for help outside of that, where, you know, a phone call would do, or a Zoom call or something like that, just so we can kind of explore some issues together, we can do that as well. But like I said, it's easier to go through that kind of schedule. And we have online scheduling at the office now too, which is really convenient. But yeah, being able to do that so that I can put the right hat on and be ready to talk to you, and not about what my kid's eating and all that kind of stuff. And I can focus.
Well Labs has a online presence too. You can go to mywelllabs.com and you can check out all those products there if it's something you're interested in and looking at. And I think I saw in there you could even inquire about a telehealth appointment.
And that's a great way too. Like, if you just want to talk about nutrition, or you want someone to kind of lay out the basics of, like, here are kind of the most important things that are going to help you discern what might be the best option, or how you figure out the quality of what you're taking. Or, like I said, some people, you know, have like pulled, they're like, I saw this on Instagram, and I saw this at the co-op, and I saw this, and also they got this big tub of stuff, and it's they might be doubling up on things. So if you have specific concerns, feel free. You can absolutely reach out on kind of any online platform, or just give the office a call.
And I love that you have the dollop beauty case on your Well Labs website. It's one of my favorite products ever.
Yes, it is great. Yeah, one of the best local inventions of all time.
Nikki, I actually met her case in New York before I met her.
Wow. And you're like, she lives in my backyard.
Yeah. We met each other. We've partnered together several times. I think she's just a great person. So I was like, oh, look at that. They got the dollop case on there. That's so awesome. Yeah, get you one of those too. All right. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this today. I really, really appreciate it. I'll have in the notes of the podcast all the ways to get a hold of you on Instagram and through your websites and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for being here today and for speaking next week at youth conferences.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll see you next week.